Am I the a-hole for refusing to discuss our kid's last name with my ex? Ex and I broke up 5 years ago. We're civil enough for our kid's sake. But there is a lot of bad blood there that can't be undone easily. And this kind of discussion makes it harder. So ex got married a year ago and is 7 months pregnant with another child. She sent me an email not too long ago saying her and her husband have discussed adding their last name to our kid's last name. She said the kids had already been informed of their plans and were on board. But when my kids brought it up to me 2 days before ex said anything, the kids mentioned it and said they didn't want their names changed. And my daughter was upset because she took it as it was happening regardless of how they feel. My son got the same impression. I replied to ex that I did not consent and I would not discuss the issue further. It was short and simple, and that was all I planned to do. But then I got a slew of emails from her expressing that I was a prick, and we should discuss issues pertaining to our children, and that I am denying the kids of what they want, and she'll take me to court over this regardless. I told her that was fine. If she wanted to waste money in court, I would see her there. Her husband decides to call my office and talk crap to me over the phone about this issue. A few of my friends said I should have at least discussed this with her, instead of just saying no and that I won't talk about it. Am I the a-hole for this? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If her husband responded by calling you at your work, then I'm not sure any discussion would have gone well anyway, except if it ended in them getting their way. They were justified in asking, but not in name calling and calling you at work, which could have consequences for you. Not the a-hole. I think it was nice of Opie not to put his kids in it by saying they don't want it either. Opie can just as easily suggest they have the husband change his name and give the new kid the same last name as Opie. What? Then they can all have the same last name. Isn't that nice? Not the a-hole. Firstly, these are your kids too. Your input is required while they're minors. Secondly, it sounds like the kids weren't actually asked, but simply told this was happening. So she lied to you. Edited to add. If your ex or her partner are contacting you at work, it better be a child-related emergency. There's no other reason. The kids might have picked it up wrong. My ex was never great at communicating. But regardless, they have expressed strongly to me that they don't want this done. So that's all there is to it. Yep, that's point number 3. They don't want this. Firm not the a-hole. And while it's pessimistic, please document her attempt to force this name change and the response your children had. Info. Do I understand that correctly, that they want to add the new husband's last name to your children? That is so insane. I hope I understood that very wrong. Yes, this is what they want. So instead of Jones, it would be Jones-Smith or Smith-Jones. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to hyphenate my last name? My mom got married recently, and she and her husband to hyphenate their names and form one family name. Her husband's kids and my half-siblings are all on board with changing their names to the hyphenated version. I am not on board with this for me. I have expressed this at least 20 times since it first came up. I don't want my name changed. That will not stand up in court and consent. My mom is so upset, and she has tried talking me around. He even tried offering me bribes to go along. Her husband asked me why I'm against it, and I have told him straight, I like my name as it is, and it's my tie to my dad, who died 2 years ago, and I don't want anyone taking anything or adding anything to it. My name has been my name for 15 years, and no, just because I'm a girl doesn't mean I'll change it when I get married, so that's not an argument to use with me. I also pointed out I could do the same when I'm older and get married and hyphenate. And I don't want 3 last names, and his name would be the one to go in that circumstance, not my dad's. Both are pretty pissed I won't work with them on this, and agreed to compromise a change. My mom has told me I'm being stubborn for the sake of being stubborn. And having a family name that brings us all together is nice, and I'm separating myself from that. Her husband told me I'm making him feel like there's something wrong with him / his name. I told him that was his problem, and I had made my feelings clear. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your name is your name, and at 15 you are old enough to decide for yourself. What do they want to do? Force you to change it and then let you change it back when you're of age? Hell, when my brother adopted his wife's kids, the younger was I think 4 or 5 and the older was 9 or 10. Maybe even younger, and to be honest, I think they were. Anyway, they asked the older if he wanted to take my brother's last name. They compromised and he took the last name as his middle name. The younger wasn't old enough to know the difference. Anyway, names are so important, and Opie absolutely has the right to choose hers. Not today, Opie. They have fair reasons for asking, just as you have fair reasons for refusing. However, I have expressed this at least 20 times since it first came up. I don't want my name changed, and I will not stand up in court and consent. That is 18 or 19 times more than should have been necessary. Trying to force the issue on their daughter makes them clearly a-holes here. Not an a-hole. Not an a-hole. You're not marrying the bloke. She is. She can change her name. Any kids they have can have their new name. Unless he adopts you, you shouldn't be under any obligation to do so. And even if he does, you're 15. You should be able to make your own mind. It's just a name. Just because your mom adds an extra name doesn't mean your relationship changes. Under no circumstances is he adopting me either. I'm happy to fight against changing my name and being adopted if I am ever forced to. Next story. Am I the a-hole for embarrassing my stepdad to his friends after he called my dad a loser? My mom was a single mom until I, 16 male, was 8, and that's when she met my stepdad Luke. My dad wasn't around because my mom said he was an alcoholic and knew he wasn't gonna be a good dad. He never found out about me until I was 10, and it was a whole thing. But he'd already been sober for years. Now I'm 16, and we're close. He's not just a fun dad, but also strict. And he was always upfront about his problems because he doesn't want me falling into the same things. Luke wasn't happy when my dad came to my life. And you can tell because it gets serious. And then he ignores my dad when he comes to see me at stuff or my birthday parties. I don't get to spend a lot of time with my dad. Only weekends and when I'm on school break or holidays. So I ask him if we could have more time together. My mom doesn't want to because I belong at home, so they're taking this to court now for him to get joint custody. The other day, Luke's friends came over to the house and they are playing poker in the kitchen. I came downstairs to charge my phone when I heard his friends ask how it's going with the custody thing. He was just ranting about my dad being a bum, and then he said he doesn't know why he even want to go with that alcoholic loser. My dad was an alcoholic back then, but he literally been sober for like 11 years. He got his own business and make good money on top of all that, so it just made me mad how he was calling him. So I called out from the living room that my dad makes more than him, so I don't know why he thinks he can call him a loser when he's made his life better since he stopped drinking. I left my room mad, but I know it was quiet in the kitchen. My mom came to me after and she told me I didn't have a right to embarrass him like that. She knows Luke was out of line talking bad about my dad, but I need to understand it's hard for him knowing I want to spend more time at my dad's than here. So I don't know if I was the a-hole in this or not. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your mom and stepdad are though. What they are doing is called parental alienation. Essentially trying to coach you to turn against your other parent, instead of letting you have whatever relationship you want. You are old enough to voice your opinion in the court. If you want more time with your dad, let him know that you are willing to testify that you want more time with him. Yeah, I know. That's what I told my dad that I'll tell a judge or whoever. He didn't want to push for more time before, unless I said I wanted that too. Sounds like you'd be better off away from Luke anyway. Not the a-hole. Your dad was an alcoholic and got better. Luke is an a-hole and staying the same. Not the a-hole. He shouldn't have talked about it in the house, friends or not. They aren't concerned about your feelings. You should have made to feel anything negative about wanting your dad in your life. I find it very interesting that they have made it about them. That's irresponsible, selfish, and childish. If this threatened them so much, perhaps they should work on being people who you want to be around. You hear stories about why people go no contact as adults, and this sort of thing is exactly why. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting my stepsister borrow my ring? My stepsister lost her mom growing up very young, so she doesn't really remember her mom that well. She didn't have anything to remember her by because she didn't have anything of sentimental value from her mother. My mom died when I was young as well, but I remember she had a ring she got from my grandmother and wanted to give that ring to me but passed away before she could do so. I wear that ring every day, and usually I'm very picky about people touching it unless it's my father and grandmother. My stepsister noticed the ring and has been eyeing it. She's asked for it quite often, and I always say no. My stepsister would always beg. It doesn't have any meaning to her, so I don't know why a grown woman is begging for another adult's ring. She asked last week, and as usual I said no. She blew up on me and said it wasn't fair that I always got what I want, and called me petty and selfish a-hole. She went to her father like she was a child, and now her father is mad at me. My father defended me and now they're arguing. My stepsister is saying it's because of me and I feel bad. Am I the a-hole for not letting my stepsister borrow my ring? Not the a-hole. Make sure you protect that ring, because if she's this obsessed with it, she may resort to stealing it. I came here to say the same thing. Not the a-hole. It's not hers. It has no connection with her, but it's very, very special to you. Perhaps that's why she wants it, which is even worse. If her father is enabling her, then he's an a-hole and a bully. She's not called Veruca Salt, is she? Not the a-hole, and I'm surprised you felt you needed to ask. Family dynamics really mess with your head. If they are super wonky, things that are obvious to outsiders are difficult for those living it. There's been many things in my life where people have been like, WTF, why do you think you're an a-hole? And it's like, well, my family made me feel like one, so I'd second-guess myself. Not the a-hole. It's your ring, not hers. And it was your mother's and has a special meaning to you. If she really wants a ring, she can buy one herself. She's not entitled to your ring. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not stepping down from walking my daughter down the aisle? I was pretty young, 18, when I had this fling with an older woman. It lasted a few months, then we didn't see each other again. 3 years ago, I found out I had a 20-year-old daughter that I fathered with this woman. We only found out because she got matched with my brother on some DNA site he had an account on. And that's how the story trickled out. She never told me she got pregnant because she didn't want her husband to know about it. Apparently he did when my daughter was 7. It was gone for a few years, then got back together when she was a teen. But they had a strained relationship. It got even more strained when she found out the truth, and neither had told her. I've been seeing my daughter regularly ever since, and we've tried to build our own relationship as father/daughter. It's been an emotionally heavy but rewarding journey. My daughter has kept minimal contact with them both from what I know, and doesn't see either as often as she used to. She got engaged to her boyfriend of 5 years. It's meant to be a small backyard wedding, and my daughter has given me the honor of asking to walk her down the aisle. It was very overwhelming for me, and I said yes without hesitation. This has gotten back to her mother and husband, neither of which are happy about it, but since my daughter doesn't speak to them as much, they've contacted me. Since he's the one who raised her and such, it's rather disrespectful of me to accept a role I've only been filling for a few years when all the hard work was already done. I wanted to say plenty in that moment, but bit my tongue as best I could. He's just hurt that she didn't bother to ask him to be the one to give her away, and understands they have their own history. And asking me, man to man, to do him this favor and bow out of doing this since he's been the one in her life the most, and he understands it wasn't my fault that I wasn't. But still, seeing it from his perspective, yeah, I'm sure it's painful. My daughter doesn't want to consider it, so that's why stepping down on my own would be the next best thing, and I'd be doing something pretty disrespectful and selfish. That's rich coming from her, I know. Just to have a clear conscience on this, am I the a-hole? It's not your choice, and it's not that other man's choice. It's her choice, and she asked you, not the a-hole. I was just thinking that they, the mother and stepdad, seem very keen on taking other people's choices away. To then have the audacity to complain that Opie didn't do the hard work when he had no clue his daughter even existed? They're a-holes. And in asking Opie to step down, they're trying to take his daughter's choice away again, just in a roundabout way. They're going the right way to end up disowned. Wouldn't that be ironic? Not the a-hole. If your daughter is low contact with her mother and her stepfather, there's a very good reason for it. If you did bow out, there's no guarantee that she'll put whatever issues they all have aside and ask him to walk her down the aisle. You will also be deprived of yet another father-daughter moment. You've already missed out on so much, through no fault of your own. Don't miss out on this moment. If you do, this one will be your fault, and you will regret it forever. Do not step down. It's your daughter's choice. But you should talk to your daughter about doing something to include the only father she has known for a long time. Yes, they messed up by not telling her or you, but people are flawed, and he did raise her at the end of the day. Not the a-hole. Barely. He bowed out for a few years. If she thought he was worthy, she would have chosen him. Plus, he barely talks to them.